Financial intelligence is more important today in the world more than ever. As we look around the world, what is evident is that we have a rapid depreciating middle class. And there are a number of reasons why this is happening. But what we know for sure is that those that have financial intelligence, they stand a much better chance to push against the tide of wealth depreciation. Today, we're going to embark on a pretty interesting topic. We're going to be looking at big ticket money habits. And the key focus is really help you to learn, apply, and master essential money habits to push your business forward, and to also learn, apply, and master essential money habits that can push you forward as the average person who wants to come into financial independence. Now, on this platform, I often talk about a number of different issues relating to business and wealth creation. And one of the things I've recently been talking about is money, the puppet master. Is money really the puppet master? Today, we're going to examine that. And I promise you at the end of today's program, you're going to know who is the puppet master, and you will also know who really should be the puppet master. To help me in this conversation today, I have a team of dynamic personalities. First, I'm going to introduce Clement Frank. In the event that you're wondering who is Clement Frank, he is an economist by profession. He's a leader by certification, and he's about to release his new book. That book is designed to really help you to understand how to fast track your development in business and in life. We also have Peter Scott. And Peter Scott, he is a theologist by profession. And he's also the brain behind Legacy Chronicle Human Growth Program, an initiative that is designed to really help people to understand the importance of having their personal life, corporate life, family life, and community life master plan. We also have Elmore Lopez, and Elmore Lopez, he is in the cryptocurrency space, and he too is about to release his new book on cryptocurrency 101. So I want to welcome each and every one of you to today's program. And how are you guys?
Great. How are you?
Great.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Fantastic. That's it?
Yes.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Hey, let's start the chat. As we look around the world, we are seeing that we have a rapid depreciating middle class. And very often you ask yourself, why is this so? In the earlier days, we were taught go to school, get a good job, go to school, get a good education, get a good job, and life should be set from there. But today we see that what was taught many years ago is not working, because we are seeing that a number of highly educated people that represents the middle class, they have done all that they have need to do. We went to school, get a good education, get a good job, but you only recognize that after all of this, you're working paycheck to paycheck. So based on these statistics, I believe that there's a new language that the middle class need to learn. And what I often say, we need to replace the good education with the right education. And by the right education, what do I mean? Should be compulsory that any education platform should help the individual to understand money and how money works. You should understand financial intelligence. Some of the simple things that we talk about is that we need to help people to understand that you work to earn, you should earn to save, you should save to invest, and you should invest to build wealth. Now, if these are not part of your big ticket money habit, the possibility exists that you will remain a puppet to money for many, many years. But the simple steps that I have just explained, it will help you now to better understand how money works and how to put money to work for you. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with working. I often say this, you work because you get to socialize with people, you get to, connect with, some highly influential people, you get to exercise your mental muscles, you get to grow in more ways than one. I believe the working of itself creates a certain type of socialization with people and to life that is essential for your mental health. So I would never take away work from the equation of wealth creation. But in today's world, we have to look at combined approaches to make this happen. Now, before I open up the floor, I want to turn attention to some of the work that we are doing. We have a number of international partners that we're working with to amplify advocacy along these lines that can really help businesses to be better positioned for greatness and to also help the average persons to better understand financial instruments and how to navigate the realities of life and put themselves in that position of strength to start building wealth. But what I want to say now is that the program that we have developed is a very unique program that we call Pathway 5. And Pathway 5 is really designed to help people to see wealth from the standpoint of science and to see wealth from the standpoint of the theory and to see wealth creation from the standpoint of the practice. I think traditionally you might have some information about it, but you only know it in the theory. So what we have done, we have combined both the science, the theory, and the practice. And with that, we have done a pilot project, and we are now able to assess how it is impacting people's lives. So today I will be talking to you a little bit about from Pathway 5 to really help the general public to understand what is big ticket money habits and essential things that you should know about it. However, just before I turn over to Frank, I want to talk about one of our partners. Now, if you're in the US, 50 states in the US, we are able to help you to access capital from any state in the US. So I want to emphasize this. So you might be in business, you may have big dreams and hopes and aspiration, but you need capital to move the vision forward. And I want to say here to you that we are in a position of strength to connect you with the right people to access the much needed capital to grow and scale your business. Now, I want you to hear this also. Some of the financial instruments that we're going to help you to access, it comes with 0% APR. One, no collateralization, so you don't have to have collateral to access the capital. And two, you're going to benefit also from 0% APR, which means that you have no annual percentage rate for, let us say, 3 to 24 months. So you have money to leverage. You see, this is another reason why we have developed Pathway 5, because Pathway 5 is really going to help you to understand financial intelligence. So again, we are not talking to you in a theory. We're talking to you based on practical experiences. We're talking to you based on our connection in the global financial market, and because we have a genuine desire to want to help you take your vision, take your business, take your ideas to the next level. So this platform is not about the theory. It's about you understanding the theory. It's about you understanding the science, and it's about you being fully empowered to take practical steps to achieve your business and personal financial objectives. So with that being said, I'm going to turn right over to Frank to have his thoughts on what are essential money habits, big ticket money habits, what you should know. All to you, Frank.
All right, thanks, Gary. Good morning, guys. Big ticket whatever the items are. There's significant purchases that often require careful financial planning and consideration. And these can include like buying a house, a car, or funding a major vacation. So if you're developing good money habits around these types of expenses, it is crucial for you to maintain a financial stability. So some key points for that is, of course, you have to assess your financial health. And your financial health includes budgeting, where you create a comprehensive budget that includes all sources of income and all expenses, whether they are fixed or variable. And this will help you understand how much you can afford to spend on big ticket items. You also have to have an emergency fund. Ensure you have this fund in place that can cover like 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And this will provide what we call a safety net in case um, unexpected costs arise after making a large purchase. You need to do a research and planning, market research. Conduct thorough research on the item you're planning to purchase. Compare prices, read reviews, and check for any upcoming sales or discounts. And of course, there is what we call total cost of ownership. You consider all associated costs, not just the purchase price for a car, because this has to include your insurance, your maintenance, your fuel. For a house, you got to look at property tax. And I work in the organization where we come down on you with penalties for if you don't pay a property tax. Insurance for the house, your maintenance of the cost of the home. And then you have financing options where there's saving versus financing. So you evaluate whether it's better to save up for the purchase or to finance it. And financing can spread out payments, but may occur interest, which will increase the total cost. You also have loan terms. If you're financing, you need to shop around for the best loan terms. Look at the interest rates, look at repayment terms, or any additional fees. And of course, there's an impact on your credit score, and that's how long how taking out a loan or using credit for a big purchase will impact your credit score. Ensure your credits is in good standing to secure a favorable loan terms. And then you have the debt to income ratio. You need to keep an eye on your debt to income ratio. High levels of debt relative to your income can affect your ability to secure future financing. I have quite a few more, but I'll hand you over back to Gary. And when we come back, we look at others. Thanks, Gary.
All right, great points. As Frank would have share some thoughts on big ticket items, I just want to add a couple of things to what he would have said. As you think of big ticket items that you want to invest in, whether it's a car or a home, it's important for you to train the mind to see these big ticket items in terms of asset and liability. Very often when you invest in these big ticket items, they are liabilities. It's not that you don't want liabilities, but what is important to know is that there's a right and wrong way in how you go about investing in liabilities. Remember the term that I use is investment, because when you invest in liabilities the right way, it doesn't affect your primary source of income. So there's a whole lot that people need to understand about wealth creation. And to be a little bit more graphic here, let me put it this way. The way you want to start thinking, the habit that you want to start to apply is that if you're going to buy the car from your savings, the question that you want to pause and ask yourself, should you take your entire savings and invest in that car. Because once you take your entire savings to invest in that car, you are literally investing in a depreciating asset. And because it is a depreciating asset, it, it is considered a liability. But what if you figure out a smarter way to do that? What if you're to take your cash money that you were going to buy that car and you're going to put it into what is known as an income producing asset? And from the gains of the income producing asset, the gains is what you now use to purchase that new car. What happens there? It means that your savings is leveraged in such a way where it is generating income. From the income that is being generated, the income is what is paying off for that car. And the asset continues to generate income for you for months and possibly years to come if that you're investing the right form of income. As you come into our program, we can go deeper into that. In the Caribbean, a car might cost you about $3 million. And let us suppose that you have this cash at hand. Now, let us suppose that you have another option. You have a property to buy at $20 million with 10% equity invested. You just need $2 million. Perhaps the other $1 million is going to go to legal fees and other charges. But that income that investment is solid enough to generate income to offset the principal and interest, tax and insurance, and also help you to pay off for that gap. So there are many hacks, and to position yourself to build wealth is not imagination, it's not speculation. It's about you having solid information, solid data that can help you to make better, smarter business and life decisions. And that's why we are hosting these programs to ensure that you're in a much better position of strength to influence desired outcome that you want in your life, particularly from a financial standpoint. Because from our analysis, what we say is that many persons are in a free fall when it comes to financial independence and wealth creation. Our mission is to get you out of that free fall where you can set goals. And I think Frank would have mentioned this. You set clear goals that you want to accomplish, but setting the goal is only one step. You need to have strategic systems that are set up to help you to achieve it. And this is where the science, the theory, and the practice combined is going to set you up to be more successful. So I'm going to pause here for now. I just made those comments based on some of what Frank would have said. Great share. I'm going to turn now to Peter to have Peter chime in on some of what was said and perhaps talk to us a little bit about master planning and the role that master planning can play, in terms of an essential habit for people to have when wanting to build wealth. All to you, Peter. You're mute.
Okay, there we go.
Loud and clear.
I'm so much appreciative of these kinds of conversation and the empowerment that the audience or listeners, viewers are able to pull from, these nuggets of wisdom that are being disseminated. Master planning as it goes into finances and the big ticket items that individuals are approaching in their lives. The master planning concept, as far as we're concerned, is that we want individuals to understand that every individual was born with a problem to solve, and it is the look at life from the standpoint that, as you mentioned earlier about the middle class, we have a shrinking middle class, and why is so on, based upon the conditions where education is concerned and people are disengaged in their lives because they have taken up a promise, and at the end of the day the promise doesn't fulfill that they should go to school, get a good education, and they will, their financial security will be administered. But what we do understand is that life is full of problems. And the reason why life is so full of problems is simply because most persons, after going to spending so many years at school, they still have not discovered the problem that they were designed to solve. And as a big ticket item, one big ticket item from our standpoint is to get individual on to understand that it's not so much of what you are going to buy, because you can afford whatever it is that you wish to buy. You can and you can afford it. As you mentioned earlier, that there is a strategy, which reminds me of, from our standpoint, I think it's one of the Beatles. They his wife. This is a true story. His wife were just looking in her backyard and said that she wanted to have a swimming pool, and he responded to her, "Okay, I will write you a swim. I will write you a swimming pool." So what he did, he wrote a song. The song was a big hit, and out of that song becoming a big hit, he was able to accumulate the funds and was able to give his wife a swimming pool. So if we should understand that every individual, there is a problem. In his case, there is an issue where people needs entertainment. People needs to be able to be enthused about their lives, and he was able to offer that enthusiasm to the marketplace with his songs, and he was able to provide his big ticket item. Every big ticket item in our lives, if we attach a problem to it, and from that perspective, master planning is now, how do we view the resources that we do have, and how do we look at whatever it is that we desire to have? We match our resources, the needs in our life, with the needs in other people's lives. And if we can create an exchange, if we can look at the world for what it is, problems as that are out there, find the biggest problems that are out there, because the bigger the problem, the more reward that individuals you will receive by solving those problems. If we look at just small issues that any and everybody can deal with, then the reward from that, and that is a problem. So the issue with the middle class, I would say, is not even the conditions that are out there, because what we do find is most persons have become somewhat, I would say, even, it's hard to say it, yes, but most persons become lazy in their thinking, in their approach to life. Most persons, we, in our master planning program, one of the primary things that we want people to get in making a plan, in designing a plan requires that you think. A plan requires brain power, but most people are not in the business of thinking. They rather other people to. They want the politician to think for them. They want the pastor to think for them. They want the school teacher. They want others to do their thinking for them, because thinking require responsibility. So the bottom line is that big ticket, what the big ticket is, what my big ticket, master planning, you got to plan around a problem. What is the big problem that you were designed to solve? You came into life to solve a problem. And if you do not solve that problem, if you do not discover your problem to solve, that is the challenge, and this is the cause that there is, well, so much problem in the world out there, and then those problems come back in our lives because we do not have the finances, because we're not putting in enough effort to self-actualize and to discover who we are and how we're going to add major contribution to life as it is. I'll come back with a few more other things.
All right, Peter. One point I want to just take up. I mentioned that I noticed that you have mentioned that people are not thinking, people are lazy when it comes to mental thinking, and I do believe in a lot of cases. What I've found is that people don't know what they don't know. All right, people don't know what they don't know, so it is very hard for them to uh, innovate and master creative thoughts in relation to some of the subjects that we are talking about. And the reality, the some of the information is very much out there, but the access, the full optimization of those information, there are definitely more works to be done with it. But in conclusion, I believe that people just don't know what they don't know. What I do believe, however, is that what can change this reality is when the conversation around wealth creation becomes more commonplace, become compulsory in the global education system. There is where you're going to begin to see a major transition in terms of the people way of thinking when it comes to wealth creation. Um, that's just a little bit that I want to share on that point. Elmore,
Yes. So
yes,
I uh I have a interesting. I love what Claremont and what Peter have shared, and I'm going to sort of use some of the points to explain some of mine because I'm in the cryptocurrency space, and so it's um, it's something that a lot of individuals still are lacking understanding of. And this is also a great point to also expose how illiterate we individuals are in the middle and lower class about money. And this is not just the laziness aspect of it, but it's more of the lack thereof of taking action and having that um, having the whole entire individual in front of them that has accomplished what they're needing to have in order for them to have a proper life. And so I think it's something very simple that should be through family lines, that it's very little exposed in the middle class and lower classes. And it's to have a financial background because the schooling system never will teach you about how to deal with your finances, and little will they allow you to understand what the taxation systems are, and if there are loopholes you can take advantage of, or and how can you go about setting up your finances in a way that you will prosper and not lack. And so this is when we're talking about money habits, right? This is the name of the show. We have to be able to start to understand that there are habits, that are behaviors that we are unleashing, that it's keeping our financials on a strength and or a financial struggle, or it could be just completely choked off. And this is because I feel that individuals really have lost their way into their finances when you have someone that is a middle classes level and they have a profession. Well, they are leaning off their high salary in order to be able to make a living. However, they seem to have this really um, weird aspect on the looking on money because they have a, and this is what, and I've seen this play out in front of my eyes all the time, so I'm speaking from a being able to perceive it. It's that individuals would have a fund that they would create for the retirement, but they would never look at the lifestyle aspect of it. They only look at the billing cycle of it. So when people are preparing their life for retirement, or they're preparing their life out of college into the workplace, they are assuming that they have enough time and they're going to be able to trade enough of that time for enough money for them to be able to with take on more responsibilities that they have the access to, and or to be able to make choices that would put them in a position of lack and not in a position of being able to win and to prosper. And this is something very simple that Claremont started to explain. And the way that I have it is that you should have four accounts set up. Now, accounts, what I mean is like you go to the bank. If you go to the bank and you have access to banking systems, then this is just like going to the store and picking up products. This is exactly how the banking system calls it. They sell you products. So you can get as many products as you need in order for you to be able to accomplish your finances the way that you are going to be needing to in order to prosper. And so this is very, very simple. You have to be able to have these four accounts set. And the first two accounts is going to be for your bills. The second one is going to be for your lifestyle. Now, this is huge because individuals, especially in the middle class, they tend to create for savings, and they think that this is going to be the when it's not a account. This is your savings that you're going to be able to into a investment to grow to work. You exchanging your time for money limits you into how you can become in the future. And so this is something that I always notice that is very little push on families, is that we should have this sort of family financial bible to where everyone in the household is able to automatically set up the two first accounts, which is the bills and the lifestyle. You always have to have a savings account, and it's called saving with a purpose. And then you have to have the account that you're going to be using investments, or something that is super important to have, because now when you are receiving your earned income, you have now a system where you know that for sure you're going to be able to not just cover your bills, but you're going to be able to have some aside for your lifestyle, and then so on, some aside for investment and saving with the purpose, and also the tithing part of it. So because you always have to have that in the back of your head, and I think that many people don't realize this, but you have to have
That
a partner in crime here. And so this
oh,
is the that I have been able to not just get myself off the ground and to be able to become financially stable and in all of these areas, but to be able to help my family members achieve it. It's been something that once you put this into practice, it really turns it around for an individual, and it puts them into a course that is for winning and it's not for lacking.
all right, great share. One point I noticed that you would have make more. Um, you mentioned the retirement plan, and one of the points that you made is that sometimes they make the retirement plan, and there is monthly deductions from salary to go into that retirement plan. But then, as you do, you invest into retirement plan, your lifestyle, the quality of life that you want, is not properly assessed. Because I think the point that you're making there is that very often when we measure the savings against the lifestyle and the quality of life that you want to live, the savings is not adequate to sustain that lifestyle. You see, that is one of the reasons why we have also developed another unique program. And on the program, we talk about the income audit. We're seeing that millions of people go through life and they've never done an income audit. And an income audit is some simple steps. Is you being able to measure your income against your expenses against your balance sheet against your future plans, and then investment. And I want to briefly talk about this based on what, some of what Elmore would have said. Everyone, you have future plans. You have future plans of owning your own home, driving your own car, perhaps having two cars because your family is now becoming bigger. You have these things at your plan, but when you look at your income against your expenses, you see that you have, in most cases, a negative balance. So once you have a negative balance, your future plans is significantly undermined. But then, because you're not socialized to think about investment portfolios, you're stuck on a cycle that is designed to keep you poor. And as you start to think of essential money habits, you really want to take the time and invest the time to understand what is REIT. REIT is things like real estate investment trust. If you're in the US, investing in REIT is one of the safest investment portfolios because the portfolio is not designed for the owners of the portfolios to maximize their profitability. It is designed to ensure that the shareholders profit from it. So these are important investment portfolios for you to understand. They are investment portfolios like the Vanguard Index. And the Vanguard Index is one of the safe portfolios for you to understand. So what we are saying here is we are not giving you investment advice, but we're simply saying to you that you owe it to yourself to ensure that you are educated on money and how money works. All right. There's no harm in you working for money, but you want to ask yourself, is there any harm in you identifying safe investment portfolios that can supplement your income and put you in that position of strength where in a short and long-term future, you have more financial security. And that's our platform, is to awaken you to what is possible. I know so far we have been talking about wealth creation, money habits in relation to your personal lifestyle, but I want to say that this also applies to businesses. Perhaps before today's program, and I'll talk briefly about that. But I just want to make that comment based on what Elmore would have said. Now, again, I want to emphasize this. If you're in the US, 50 states, we are able to help you to access capital to move your business forward. All right. We have a strong network of financial leaders that have many, many years of experience in the field of helping businesses to access capital. So we know your pain points. Between next week and the other week, I'm going to try to have one of the big players from the financial institutions talk to the community about this. So I want to encourage those who are viewing the programs to continue to like, subscribe, and share. So you will be the first to know some of the big players that we're interfacing with, and better position yourself to build wealth. So we have some significant programs, some significant leaders that are going to be coming on this platform to talk to us about access to capital. So this is for business leaders. But let me say this, one of the things that I would say to business leaders, you need to understand a whole lot about capital markets. All right. You need to understand a whole lot about capital markets. And these are essential big ticket habits for you to have, big ticket money habits for you to have. One of the things that we often talk about, and in Pathway 5, as we go into the pathway to big ticket thinking, we work with the business community and we work with the average Joe to help them to understand capital markets. The reason we want you to understand capital market is because you understand capital mix, you understand financial mix. And the real objective of understanding financial mix is because you are now will be in a better position to predetermine which financial instrument is best for you, especially for those who are in the developed world. In the developed world, there are multiple financial instruments. And perhaps you're fighting to take debt when debt is not the instrument that you should be taking, but because you don't understand financial instrument, you are saddled with a debt that you have significant APR to pay. You have monthly debt obligation. What if there are other instruments that's going to give you 0% APR for 12 or 24 months? But then you don't understand enough about it. So in Pathway 5, we will go deep into this to really help you to understand capital markets and how to leverage capital markets to your advantage. But along with understanding capital markets for businesses, it's not enough to understand what exists. It's equally important to understand how to access. Because one of the challenges that we see, even in the developed world, is that you may have some understanding of financial instruments, but then you don't know how to access. And we interface with business leaders all the time that just don't understand how to access capital. Pathway 5, the science, theory, and practice of wealth creation. For the business leader, we will help you to understand how to access. And again, this is not from theory. We have our financial specialist that is going to be there to also, if necessary, to give you the guide. But we have already developed the blueprint for that, so you know how to access. So the third element is 4 important things that you need to understand money when you want to be a big ticket, money player. You need to also understand how to leverage capital, because many persons, you take a debt, and the way you go about leveraging it, you leverage it as a liability. It's not that we don't want you to have a luxury car and a luxury house, but why approach it from a liability standpoint when you can approach it from an asset acquisition standpoint? But largely because you don't understand much about capital leverage, you don't have the big ticket money habits around this, you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're going to set yourself up for hardship when hard time comes, because you don't have enough, security to back you up. So understanding how to leverage is not an emotional decision. It is an emotional, intelligent decision, but you can't take the intelligence out to the emotion and just go to the market with all the emotion and no intelligence. You're going to hurt yourself. So Pathway 5 is a unique platform of learning that is going to really set you up for success. So you want to be a big ticket money player. You want to have big ticket money habits. We want to help you to understand how the money game is really played. All right. The last concept that we will help you to understand about money, because believe me, if you're in business and you don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm saying to you, you're not just leaving a slice of the cake on the table. You might be leaving half of that cake or more of the pie on the table, because you don't understand all of the money move. The last concept that I'm going to talk about here is capital mitigation. How do you mitigate capital? You see, one of the biggest myths that you're saying to yourself as a rising star in business is that capital is high and you don't have control over interest rate. Is that myth or is that true? It depends on which side of the fence you're on. Now, this is what I can say to you. Traditionally, many persons taking a debt, you cuss the banks out. They're sharks, they're lions, they're tigers, they're snakes, they're all of these different things. Is that a fair statement? You begin to get a different perspective when you begin to recognize that, yes, the bank may set APR, but guess what? You still have control over your debt life cycle. You still have control over how you mitigate the principal balance. And because you have control over this, guess what? Indirectly, you are in a position of strength to influence the cost that you're paying for capital. But yes, again, because in your school, the good education, we did not learn this. We are now developing what we call the right schooling system. So the university, the Science of Success University, these are things that we're going to bring to you. So as to ensure that you can make a better, smarter business and life decision and really position yourself for greatness. So again, I want to emphasize this. Pathway 5 is an exceptional financial intelligence platform. And it is my genuine belief it's one of the most modern financial intelligence platform in the 21st century. And you owe it to yourself to make that commitment to learn as much from these tools and programs that we are bringing to you. I'm going to pause here for now. Master Frank, all to you, my friend.
Yes, Sensei. Yes, and so we were talking, the last thing we talked about was the impact on credit. But the other um, thing is the long-term financial goals. And it's the way you were aligned with those goals. Because you need to ensure that the big purchase aligns with your long-term financial goals. For example, if you're buying a home, it should fit into your retirement planning and overall wealth building strategy. You need to look at the opportunity cost. Consider what you might be giving up in making this purchase. Could the money be better spent or invested elsewhere? That's how you need to think. What about insurance and protection? Insurance for significant purchases. Ensure you have an adequate insurance coverage. And this might include homeowners insurance, car insurance, travel insurance. What are your warranties or guarantees? You need to understand that warranties and guarantees come with your purchase. Extended warranties can sometimes be worthwhile for expensive items. So check to see what the warranties and guarantees are. Negotiate and shop smart. Negotiate. Don't be afraid to negotiate the price. Many big ticket items have room for price negotiation, whether it's with a car dealer or a homeowner. Negotiate your price. Time your purchase to take advantage of sales, discounts, seasonal pricing. End of year sales or holiday promotions can offer significant savings. And then you need to seek professional advice. Do you have a financial advisor? You need to consult with your financial advisor, understand how a big purchase fits into your overall financial picture, and to get personalized excuse me, advice. Look for legal advice for very large purchases like real estate. It may be prudent to seek legal advice to ensure all contracts and agreements are in your best interest. And so, being informed, being prepared when making big ticket purchases can prevent financial strain. It can help you ensure that these investments contribute positively to your overall financial health. By assessing your financial situation, researching thoroughly, considering financing options, and seeking professional advice, you can make smart and strategic decisions. Thank you.
Great points. Peter?
Yeah, I was just looking at or master planning. We like to work with foundations, right? Master planning require that before we do anything at all, we have to lay a foundation. And it is in this sense that we're looking at the conversation in terms of what caused us to be in the dilemma that we're in as far as the education system, and what we will even realize, Gary, where I mentioned lazy thinking, because the word school is from a Greek word that means leisure. It means leisure. It's a word that it translates in English whatever the Greek the philosophers had concerning leisure, as in terms of thinking comes out of a rest, peace of the mind. But leisure in English, leisure is a different concept of not being activated. So even what we generate in the world in our vernacular, where we are storing, placing people, it doesn't connote the level or the product that we ought to have. So when we have faulty foundations, when we're building on faulty foundations, then the end result of what we are getting, if we do not correct that, and so the systems, that's why we know the systems that are designed, what I'm saying now is that the systems that are designed for thinking is creating the opposite impact. And we can see it now. We are now, we have lived long enough, we have enough generation, enough produce from these institutions to understand what is happening. If we check, look at our institutions now. Look at the United States of America. Look at college campuses. So people are trained not to think. People are trained not to have critical views. People are trained not to have creative mind. People are trained just to regurgitate whatever it was within the system. And so the laser thinking, the person now, for why it goes back into this, because a person now, after many years of discovering that their thinking, they have been, I would say, handicapped. They have been, after being exposed to such a system, they have become handicapped. Now it takes a great deal of work, takes a great deal of muscle in the head to really break out of what you have been indoctrinated with. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Gary. Proverb, right? Proverb, a story in Proverb. Proverb says, Solomon says that he went down by the field of the sluggard. And when he went down by this field of the sluggard, the fields with the fence was broken down, and the land was filled with thorns and thistles. It's overrun by wastefulness. And he thought about it, and he looked at the sluggard, and it says, look, here, a little laying down to rest, a little sleep, a little folding of the hand. So shall poverty overtake you like a armed man. So how hungry are we? So the person the normal routine person will go to the 9 to 5, and they come home, and what they do? They watch TV. And then they do this cycle, repeat this cycle over and over, and expect that life is going to be productive. So it is that kind of element that we have to break. So we're talking about big ticket. The big ticket is that we have to, really get into the psyche. We have to really turn this entire system, because we can't allow another 2 generations here in the United States. We cannot allow the next 2 generations. Look at what is happening on college campuses right now. Look at the future leaders of the next generation. If what is happening on college campuses right now is the future is not looking too pretty at all. All right, so something have to give, something have to shift, Gary, but we can't continue that, right? And it's hard for me to build if the foundation is faulty.
Yeah. Peter, you make some valid points. And there's lies a challenge. What we see is that while it can be perceived as laziness, to not have a second job, What we are doing in Pathway 5, in recognition of all that you have said, we have really focused very deeply at the problem, and we are tabling some solid solution. And let me just say this. The last thing that you want is that you commit your time and hard-earned money to study and get your diploma, to study and get your degree, to study and get your master's degree, to study and get your doctorate degree, and then you still have to go to a second job. Because the main fact that you invest in all of this money into your academic study is to become exceptional in your skills. And to be exceptional in skills is to also be highly rewarded in more ways than one. So, because of the fact that we are seeing that that is not necessarily the case, any right thinking person, you now have to ask yourself the question, is this the best way? Yes, as I would say, we want to say kudos to academics where it is working, because the doctors, some of the doctors are doing a good job, some of the lawyers are doing a good job, some of the engineers are doing a good job, so we can kick the entire ecosystem. But what we're going to kick is to do an audit, and the audit should say, okay, you have learned this, you're skilled, you are making significant contributions to society, but let us evaluate the quality of your life. All right. Is your accomplishments academically translating with the quality of life that you so deserve? All right. And there lies a challenge. So, the way it should be from our standpoint, from Pathway 5, is that your single source of income should be enough. Should be enough. But regardless of it being enough or not, it's important still for you to understand how money works. There's not enough information out there that's going to help the average person to understand how to leverage savings into smart investment portfolios and how to possibly build wealth through that process. Perhaps you might want to say in the developed world there's laziness to collect the information, but sometimes the information is so complex. Something you don't have all the time. But I see your point, and what we don't necessarily want to advocate, is going to that second job that's going to take you away from family. I'm a family man, all right? That's going to take you away from the family. Take you away from nurturing your kids and spending time to ensure that your kids are the smartest people in the world. Is there a better way? So I do believe that having that primary source of income is good, but also having a secondary source of income, which might be a passive income stream, is very important for us to have. I'm going to make one more point before I come to Elmore, and we're going to start to wrap up shortly. On Pathway 5, we talk a lot about the pathway to subject matter expertise. And one of the reasons we're going to emphasize subject matter expertise is because when you become an expert in your field, you don't have to become an expert at 10 different things. This is why we talk about mastering your MV, or your minimum or most viable offer, is to find the 1 in 10 factors of brand selection, go deep into it, and ensure that you are a subject matter expert. Because as a subject matter expert, what Pathway 5 can do for you is to package your expertise. And Peter, this comes to you. One might be an expert in cryptocurrency, and this is what you're doing with Elmore. And what you do, you package his talent in a book form, and you work towards taking him to bestseller. So that become another stream of income. You package his content into an online digital learning platform. That becomes also now another stream of income, and that stream of income is paying him when he sleeps. So it's the ecosystem that you're able to build around the skill sets that the young professional, the professional needs to know, And that can really position them to come into financial greatness, so they don't have to necessarily go to that second job. And they're able to free up time for family. The last thing that we want to say to anyone is that work more hard and compromise the family. We see too much of hurt being done to the family. So I just want to share that little bit. But I want to also emphasize, Peter, I get your point very clear. In cases where the systems are now working and there are blatant facts out there that it's not working, some of the things that I want to support you on is that you don't want to spend hundreds of thousands or thousands of US dollars to master a talent, only to recognize that the goalpost has shifted and that talent is no longer relevant to the organization. So that brings us back to some of the conversation that we had, I think, last week. As we look at development, perhaps we need to have a more top-down approach where the top players have a nationalistic and globalistic vision as to where we are going as a collective. That vision is filtered down throughout institution, to family, to students. So as they develop skill set, they know they are developing skill set to complement and support the futuristic development of the nation, of where the global economy is going. So there's more conversation to be had in those regards. In the absence of that, is where these type of conversation that we are having to ensure that the individual is not left out of the economic independence loop, and they're better positioned to achieve a better quality of life. Elmar, I'm going to turn to you. We're going to start to wrap up now. So your closing thoughts on what we have discussed so far.
Yes, no. So everyone provided some amazing information, some great points. I liked it. The way that Peter has been able to express the way that the education system was set up, and it's something that I can resonate with as I have been down that rabbit hole. That the educational system, it was set up to create employees. It was not set up to create critical thinkers, and so this is the reason why we have earned income, because you do not make great.
Elmar, that's what we call master manipulation.
Yeah, well, that's the same way that it was being set up for everyone.
Where we listen to what the Rockefellers said, and the kind of capital investment that these guys made into that conspiracy.
Well, it's not. Well, it's not a conspiracy. They were the ones who created the education system that we use today. So that is not a conspiracy. They signed on this. They created the Rockefellers and the Carnegie came together to do this, and so that's why you have so many libraries around the United States and everywhere else in the world. But that's not a conspiracy any longer. This the financial system is something that it's very little known because of the educational system. Because in the educational system, we have great ways to be able to become experts in different fields, which is amazing. And this is something that has allowed for many individuals to have been able to not just use the educational system to become great, because we have the likes of like Mark Zuckerberg. He's a college dropout because he started to use college in order for him to be able to gain access to the education system, but also to be able to gain access to a broader audience that would be able to he would be able to help, which is how he started Facebook. Facebook was essentially a platform that was only for students to be able to intercommunicate between the campuses. And now Facebook is such a big monster, and Mark Zuckerberg is such a, he's solved a humongous problem into the marketplace. He did it through the educational system. I'm not saying that the educational system is evil. I'm just saying that it was not set up for creating, big changes. However, when you are very into yourself, you can definitely become great. And just that great example with Mark Zuckerberg. We have many other great examples of
Mark Zuckerberg. On Mark Zuckerberg, I think it's good and bad. It's good and bad.
Of course. But,
so I think that that needs to be analyzed a little bit. And just let me say why I say conspiracy, and you're gonna talk back to this. Now, what is a conspiracy? Conspiracy is a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful to a collective. And the big question you want to ask yourself, what has been established over 100 years ago? Was it to add value, or was it to down-regulate in human development? And as you analyze that, we're going to then determine whether it was a conspiracy or not.
It's a conspiracy, but not a conspiracy theory. It's not a theory. It is
I
real.
didn't say a
No,
theory.
no. There's data. There's data. There's
Conspiracy.
data behind this. No, there is data. There is data behind
Real.
this.
All right,
It is
Okay,
real.
let
all
me
right,
just
Delbert, on to
It is a
you.
no. So hold on. There's data behind this. There was a professor in New York that he ran a study with different class groups, because what happened was that NASA, and this is something that could be looked up. NASA was trying to figure out how they can hire more geniuses, and because they were trying to figure out down to the ground level what would create a genius, so they went into the school system, and there was a professor from New York that helped them do this. And what happened was that they took a group of 5-year-olds, and they programmably, they were overviewing this group and giving them certain tests as they were growing up. And the data goes, and this is why it's very formidable. But the data goes that everyone, when they were 5 years old, about 96% of the classroom were geniuses. And when they came back 5 years later, it was only about 60% of the people were geniuses. When they came back 5 years later, this is individuals, these kids are already around 15 years old, only maybe, I think it was like 40 something percent. And by the time they graduated high school and they were already an adult, which is 20 years old, only 30% of this group of kids were still in the genius level, which means that the
Did
educational
the
system,
analysis
as you
say
mentioned,
what?
excuse me,
Did the analysis say what?
this is you could look, so this is NASA looking to hire more geniuses. This is a study that was done.
Come on.
And what happened was that they noticed that the educational system is dumbing down the kids. It is not helping them with their critical thinking skills and to become and stay as a genius. So that's the data that supports the statement that school is
Good,
dumbing kids down instead of making them
good,
smarter.
good. I think the points are valid points. Um, the way that I want to see it is that, as great leaders, and I know Frank will take me up on this, we can sit and we can articulate all the problems of the world. It's not going to change it. But I think that as a great leader, what we can do is to identify how we can be the pebble that possibly can create a ripple effect, and that's the effect change. And again, on this platform, we articulate along these lines, not because we want to identify the problems, but we identify the problems because the next step is to propose the solution. And again, this is why we are proposing Pathway 5 has the solution to that problem. I think that we want to get people awakened, but we also want to get people to understand the solution to the problem, and is to ensure that you have that enabling environment that is going to provide the mentorship, the coaching, the support, and to get people to that promised land. Because I can say this, with all that was said, based on the socialization, it is not the easiest thing to break away from it. All right, for you to be socialized by, institution, for you to be even socialized by mom and dad, because mom and dad perpetuate the conspiracy because, they were also socialized in that way. To break those strongholds is not easy, but the key is to have the alternatives, solution that people can begin to learn from. Again, the entire ecosystem that we are talking about is not bad, but of course, there are elements of it that we can point to. And as time progresses, we'll certainly look at it some more. Um, Frank, all to you. But good points, Elmore. Frank, you're mute.
From my experience, I think what I'm seeing is a dwindling of the middle class. And based on what I've experienced as a teacher, the realm of teaching is supposed to bring you to that middle class status. Well, it used to happen, but the teachers are fighting for increase in pay. They're going on strikes. And I remembered when I taught in the afternoons, I had like about 3 various lessons that I had to use to supplement income. And then when I left Guyana and I started lecturing at the University of West Indies, that was the only job I needed, because the income has helped me to assist myself and family members, but at the cost of not being there for my girls or family. And yes, you can send whatever you want to send for them. But what we are facing, especially in the middle class, we find it's disappearing. Increased cost in normal goods and services, increased cost in healthcare, increased cost in childcare, increased cost in education. But then the cost increases. Level of income is not increasing in comparison to the increase in cost. So you have a case now where the middle class will disappear. You just have the rich and the poor. And my thing is, you can have 4, 5, 6 jobs after, but it comes at a cost to something else. And that's why, as economists, you look at the opportunity cost of doing something. In economics, we're not concerned about the moral aspect of it. Is that you have made a choice, whether you want to become rich or remain poor, whether you want to move from the status quo of the disappearing middle class into the top 5%. And how do you do it? Right? You have Peter here who can help you do that. You have Elmore who can shed light. And I got to talk to Elmore also, because I want to get in on some of this wealth in the digital world. I am aspiring now to have income while I'm sleeping, generate income while you're sleeping. And I don't think it's what you call lazy.
Unreasonable.
No, not I'm not, that's not the word I'm looking for. There's a name that they call income when you're sleeping.
Residual.
Passive.
Passive. I don't think it's passive.
Passive.
No, it's not
Passive
passive. I don't think it's passive. Passive for me connotates that you just lie there and not to get to that income. You have to do some work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but after, the reason we call it passive.
I understand the reason why it's being called passive, but to get to the state where you have to get what you want,
It's hard work.
Hard work.
And you got to utilize finances, plenty money to get to that position. I'm looking at a book I'm writing, and the cost factor. And so I need to make sure that all my targets are lined up, so that when I go to pay all the necessary thing and do all the thing, I getting 4 and 5 times you know, income coming in. And so, yes, when you sleep, you're making money. But the thing about it, people are accustomed to a certain way, and to get them to change, sometimes it's difficult. We have to create avenues and space where those persons who are accustomed to just being laid back look at the opportunities and say, you know what, I want to be in this position. Let me tell you something. You can talk from now till the cows come in. The Bible says the poor we will always have with us, because some people just love to be in poverty. They just relish it. Oh, we're poor, and that's why we will always have the poor people. But for those who are striving, they want to see something different. They are going to look at every little opportunity. They're going to seek every way, an avenue to get out of poverty. I grew up poor. I know what it is to have one brief and you sew it as it stretch. And I know about them days. I know about having a shoe that you take 4 times to the shoemaker because your goal is go to school, get the education, and you move on. Apart from the foolishness where teachers are on your back and look,
You replace the shoe
it's a
back
lot,
and Frank.
you know.
Replace the
But
shoe
the
back
thing, but
you
and
get
something.
you get some old tire.
There's some old tires. I have fixed your shoes, but you want to remain there. You don't want to remain there. You want to move on. You want to get a position where, hey, you know,
Yeah,
I,
buddy.
and that's why the book I've written, especially for leadership, some leadership, is there, and I'm working hard for the others. You know, working hard to get that.
Gary,
Good.
process in there,
Uh-huh.
where the same scripture that I mentioned, Solomon says that he went by the fields of the sluggard, because that's where the problem is. What is the field? The field can be many things, right? The field is our career. Um, because what field are you in? You're in the field of medicine. You're in the field of whatever choice of work that a person chooses. But one of the biggest field, the greatest field that the laziness is found, because it's one thing for somebody to do something to me. It's another thing for me to take responsibility for my own field. And the greatest field that we're talking about is the field of the mind. The mind is a field. What are we putting in minds? It's one thing for somebody to induce a certain set of information, but if it is not serving me, am I going to allow those seeds to continue to grow in my own mind? Because we become, whatever we put into our minds, we become that. Give us medical information and we become doctors and health practitioners. If we put legal information in our mind, we become legal practitioners. Whatever we put in our minds, we actualize that set of information. So what are we putting in our minds? And we're not suggesting to anybody that they should go get 2 or 3 jobs. No, keep the one job and use the rest of the time to work on your field, the field of your mind. Do your independent research.
Mhm.
Find the problem that you were
All right,
designing.
Peter, I'm going to come to you to expand on what you're saying just now, Peter. But just let me say a couple of things based on what Frank would have said, and then I'll come back to you.
Mhm.
Frank, you mentioned a number of things. You talk about what's happening back in your countries with teacher. Uh, I have seen very strategic approaches in which we can create win-win situation, but I'm not going to talk here about it because that I'm going to put a dollar sign if I talk about that here on that. That information I ain't giving free. Now, you mentioned opportunity cost, and I can recall when I did my Cambridge International program, we went deep into opportunity cost. And one of the things that we learn about opportunity cost is that very often to attain one thing, there is a cost. You have a choice between two things, and you have to forego the benefit of one in order to optimize the benefit with the other. And they drill down, the whole concept of opportunity cost. Now, I'm at a point where we have taken those concepts and we have tested those concepts and we have expanded on those concepts. And the what we want to table, what if you are able to look at the opportunity and not necessarily the cost? Because in this context, what we are talking about is that for you to position yourself to build financial independence, you have to take a second job. But to take a second job is going to affect family based on the example that Frank would have given. And he's perfectly correct with that, if that is the pathway in which you're thinking. But what if you have an alternative pathway? All right. What if pathway 5 is the alternative pathway, where you don't have to trade more of your time and compromise family? But because you literally understand money and how it works, you know how to now put it to work for you. You know how to up-level digital platforms that can create multiple income streams. You understand these platforms. I do believe that when we start to bring these other concepts in alignment with concepts that you have been taught in terms of the opportunity cost, you begin to recognize that, hey, there's alternative, but you're not just taught about the alternative, because I do believe that as you begin to expand knowledge on the alternative, you can have more of the opportunities without the cost. All right. You don't have to sacrifice your family. You don't have to necessarily give up more of your time because you understand a different way of doing things that is going to position you and for greatness. And again, this is what Pathway 5 is all about. This is the solution that we are talking about. All right. So with that being said, I wanted us give Peter the opportunity to give his closing remarks. I'm going to come back to Frank to give his closing remarks, to talk to us about his book. And then we're going to wrap up today's session. Peter, closing remarks?
Yeah, I was just saying, Gary, that that life is a problem, and the reason why life continues as it is because most persons have not discovered the problem that they were born to solve. And the minute you begin to think, get into the field, get into your own field, the field of the mind, and that is why we say, we mentioned why I mentioned earlier about laziness, because laziness is not a matter of, because some of the most busiest persons, they have lazy thinking because they do not think, they do not take the time to put the greatest muscle in their body to work. So I'm not attacking individuals. We're saying that we have to take responsibility for how our mind operates. And when you begin to take that into consideration, because there are problems to solve, and if we should, earlier we mentioned a couple names. I think it was Frank who mentioned a couple names. Bill Gates. I don't know if you don't remember, Gary. These individuals, and one of the things that surprised me several years when I begin to look at the persons who are the movers and shakers of the modern landscape that we have, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, they were college dropouts. So it goes to show, not that we're hitting the system, but then we have to call this for what it is. So the problem, what we're saying, is the issue of the mind. The mind, you got to work the mind, because it is in that processing of your own independent thoughts that you will discover the self-actualization that we mentioned so many times on this stage. Until individuals become responsible for their own thoughts and filter out whatever they Solomon called the thorns and the thistles and the waste of whatever systems are around us, then we will begin to, it is at that time we'll begin to tap into the solutions that you are speaking about, those elements even in the Pathway 5, because now we begin to see things different. We begin to see beyond the matrix, and we'll identify the people with the
All
problem.
right. All right. All right. Frank, all to your closing remarks, and talk to us a little bit about the book.
All right, the book is about sound leadership in today's dynamic world, and it's for all leaders, whether you're a politician, pastor, leader in a community, and how will politicians benefit if they read this? Because sound leadership is crucial for politician, because it not only enhances their personal reputation, but also bring significant benefits to their constituents and society at large. And so this book helps to enhance the politicians' credibility and trust, the public trust, because politicians or some leadership fosters trust among constituents. If you're a politician, you need to foster that, and this is what this book speaks to. Because when politicians are seen as competent and honest and committed, it builds confidence in their ability to govern effectively. You have a good reputation, and this is how this book benefits you, because a reputation for sound leadership can lead to greater respect and influence both within your political party and among the public. It also helps you to become an effective government official. Effective governance comes into play where your policy implementation, it needs the strong leadership skills. It enables you as a politician to implement policies effectively, navigate the complexities of government bureaucracy, and secure the necessary support to achieve those goals. As a government, you will always have crisis. How do you manage those crises? And reading this book on Sunday can handle crisis more effectively, providing stability and reassurance during those turbulent times. There are many other benefits, but we'll discuss that later. Thank you.
Frank, I just want to ask a question. Since one of your demographic is the politicians, I've sat at a number of forums with, leading government officials, and sometimes when I see you're around that round table, you have, private sector, you have civil society, you have various institutions where you are venting their concerns. But I find sometimes the politician alone taking notes is inadequate. One of the things that I've talked about is that politicians that wants to be effective, they should at least have that project management specialist next to them. Because the project management specialists come with certain special skill sets that can document ideas, that can, flesh out ideas, can timeline project implementations, and really help the politicians to make a more comprehensive representation of the concerns that are being tabled. So I know that's a long way to ask a short question. Has the book in itself look at any elements of project management that can also enhance politicians' output?
That is called delegation, delegating responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so what has happened to most politicians is that they believe they are the know-it-all and end-it-all. And what the book teaches you is the style of leadership that you should have if you want to be a sound leader. And so rather than you, the politician, going into an area of project management that you may not know anything about, you send a professional. So the professional comes under your strength. Politicians don't have to go everywhere. They have to do everything. It's all about
Yeah.
delegating responsibilities. And the book speaks to delegation.
All right. Glad to hear that, my friend. We'll talk some more about that book, and perhaps, we'll do an analysis of the book and how it can really impact the business community and all of the critical stakeholders. To the audience, I trust that you enjoy today's program. The objective today was to talk about big ticket money habits. I know we went into some aspect of it. Of course, we expanded the scope of the conversation a little bit. Regardless, I trust that you would have had a lot to take away from today's program. Again, I want to today we have over 40,000 persons who have subscribed to our platform over the last 4 months, 3 to 4 months. I want to thank you. And I also want to encourage those persons who have not yet subscribed yet to press that subscription and button. In conclusion, what I want to say is that I want to emphasize this. There's no harm in work. I believe that they are, physical and mental benefits in working. So I would never tell you to just all focus on financial intelligence and not about a sustainable job. But this is what I want to emphasize. As you focus on work, it's important to keep in mind some of the outcomes of work that you want. You work, why? Because you want to earn. You earn because you should have a saving strategy. You're saving because you want to have an investment strategy. And you're investing because you want to have a wealth building, a wealth creation strategy. And wealth building is not only for the selective few. Wealth building is also for you, but it's important for you to avail yourself to the right information that can position you for financial greatness. The possibility exists that you may not be able to do it on your own. But instead of getting a spouse and you get into baby making very early, perhaps you can get a spouse, delay baby making, and focus more on how two can build wealth faster. These are all strategies that you can look at. Frank talked early and about family planning and master planning. Perhaps this could be part of your master plan. Perhaps, building wealth is not about you doing it all on your own. Perhaps you can come together with families and friends and you can have a strategic plan that is going to position you to attain financial greatness. All of this is possible. All right. And what we have done, we have built out a system, an ecosystem to really help you to get the right information that can truly position you for financial greatness. Now, with that being said, I want to thank my team for being here today. And I'm going to start with Peter. Peter is a theologist, and of course, when he speaks, he helps you to understand things from his theological standpoint. As you can see today, he went to many parts of the scripture to represent his argument. I want to also thank Elmore. Elmore is a player in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space. And of course, he will share his knowledge and experience from that standpoint. I want to also thank Frank. Frank is an economist by profession. He's also a leader by profession. And yours truly, I wear many hats. I study global financial markets from Rice University. I study international business at Cambridge University. I did project management at American University. So I wear many hats, but I'm going to pause there for now about me and really encourage you to take your life into your hands and make a solid commitment to position yourself for greatness. And if you need support with that, when you need support with that, I want to encourage you, whether you're in business or you're the average person who wants to attain greatness, we are now looking at the science of success, the theory of success, and the practice of success. Again, if you're in the US, any state in the United States of America, 50 states, our partners are willing to work with you to help you to access capital to grow and scale your business. In a couple of days, a few weeks, either this new week or next week, we want to do some interviews with some of those players to really help you to get a close-up and personal understanding of some of these big players that we are working with. Some of our players have allocated today over 150 million US dollars to Rising Stars in Business. We have other players who have allocated over $2 billion in capital to Rising Stars in Business. So very soon I'm going to be introducing them to you so you can see some of the big players behind what we call the big ticket money moves. So with that being said, I want to say enjoy and see you guys very soon.